you send in returns, we will put them into the database, and that will be reflected the next time parish dashboards are done. We're hoping to publish statistics for Mission early November, so hopefully by the end of the year you'll get the next version of the updated parish dashboards. We also do, as I say, the finance dashboards. And all of these are the information that are submitted through the online parish return system, which I'm sure a lot of you, unless you're in 3 dioceses, will recognise as the basic mechanism for putting things in. And if any of you are people who are responsible for putting data in, thank you so much on behalf of your parishes, your dioceses, and the use that we make of your data nationally. Thank you from the bottom of our heart. This system is actually one which is growing and developing. So we have, for example, and I'll come on to it in a tick, it was Oxford Diocese actually, so let's give them the praise where it's due, said, we also ask our articles of inquiry for the archdeacons, and we just wondered if it would be possible to add that to that system, the online entry system, because our people are used to using it. I thought, what a brilliant idea. Because what drives me is about trying to make data, number one, collected once only and used wherever we need it. And there's a lot of things going on at the moment on that. But secondly, making it as easy as possible for people like yourselves and your colleagues who are entering the data. You don't need to be going on to 4 or 5 different systems with different usernames and different passwords. So what can we do to streamline it? So we did last year, we had 4 dioceses that did their articles of inquiry using this system. And that therefore would make it a lot easier for people. They've still got to get the same information, but at least it's one system and it's somewhere that's familiar. So we tried to do that. But did you know we also do deanery dashboards? Can we just have a quick show of hands if you've seen them? There's no right or well. Yeah, so a much smaller proportion of people know that there are deanery dashboards. Your dioceses do have them, but if, to be honest, I'm very happy for any of you. I'm just thinking about my inbox on Monday morning. I'm very happy for any of you to email me, and we can get your deanery, if you tell us which one it is, sent through to you. So they're the same thing that you saw at parish level, but at deanery level. There's one major difference though, and for these, we include estimates, because actually a deanery dashboard doesn't, when you're adding up all the different parishes in your deanery, doesn't make any sense if you have a lot of missing data, particularly if you have one very large church that doesn't report 1 year. It can make everything go down, which isn't actually the truth of what's happening. So for your deanery dashboards, so you can get an overview of what's happening in your deanery, we do include estimates. We don't on the parish dashboards. So that's worth picking up and remembering. As with the parish dashboards, there is also a deanery finance dashboard. So those are there for you. And I would really welcome, we won't have time today, but if any of you want to get in touch to let me know if there's other stuff that would be more useful, different things that would be useful. You are the people that can inform and help us to give you fourfold the information that you've given us. The last 5 minutes or so, I just want to tell you about some other work, though, that we're doing, partly because we're quite excited about the work, but also because there may be some things that resonate with stuff that's going on in your deanery where you'd like to find out more. I'm only going to be able to touch the sort of surface of it. And it all kind of emanates from renewal and reform. We're all comfortable with the idea that we have this amazing programme going on. There's a lot of money being invested in growing our church. So when everything kicked off, I went round to the chairs of all the different committees that were planning amazing work. And I just said, how will you know if it's been a success? And most of the time they'll kind of look at me and sometimes it's a pat on the head and sometimes it's kind of look at you as if, you know, what do you mean? And I said, well, you know, in 5 years' time or 3 years' time or 10 years' time, how will you know if it's been a success? Because we need to know that now so that we can work out what those things are now. We know that God will grow the church in ways that we can't possibly imagine. So this isn't a simple task, but at least if we start thinking about how we might recognise that growth and that success, then we can actually start to find some sensible things that aren't too big to collect and that actually are meaningful and that we understand. And we recognise that we may have to change that as time goes on and we recognise growth in a different way. But we have to start somewhere. We have to start with an intentional way of going, okay, we think that if we are successful, this is what it might look like. So, anyway, thankfully, the Archbishop's Council went away and thought about some metrics of at least some things to start with, recognising that we don't know exactly how it's going to pan out, to say this is how we'll recognise growth, this is the kind of thing we'd like to look at. And some of those things we collect already. You know, attendance measures, we're all quite familiar with collecting those. But there were some other things in there as well. There's a lot of anecdote around the church growing older. And I'm sure you've all heard that. We don't actually know. We don't have evidence. Back some sort of 1980s, the church age distribution was about the same as the population at large. By 2007, which was the last time there was any form of audit, the church average population was about 52, when the rest of the population was 44. And anecdote, but not evidence, suggests that it's got older still. Now that's going to have a really interesting consequence in terms of mortality rates of older people, meaning that our churches are just naturally going to be losing a lot more people than the population at large, in a sense, proportionately, because of the different age distribution. So actually, if we are growing our church and bringing in younger people, we're going to need an awful lot more of them to compensate for the people that we're losing. Because churches are growing a bit at the moment, and we've got churches growing, roughly about a quarter of churches are growing, about a quarter are declining, and the rest are wobbling quite a bit. That's a statistical term, wobbling. And we use that quite a bit. So we've got some projects going on to help us understand a bit of what's going on. Now, I'm not going to go into any of these in detail. I'm just going to give you a kind of overview of what those some of those projects are. So, as I mentioned, the articles of inquiry. One of the projects we've got working at the moment is an online service register. So I'm sure you all know that under canon law, you must keep a service register in a book. And legal opinion was that the book is made of paper. So I kind of had this idea that it would, Canon F12, actually, and we, so I thought, well, it'd be quite good if we could have a digital service register as an option. Because do you know what, if you keep your service register digitally, instead of on a book, at the end of the year, when the stats return is due, 80% of it pings straight from the online service register. And anyway, that's going through. It had its first reading at General Synod in York in July, and it's now at revision stage. And there's some stuff about where we archive, because at the moment your service registers, it's said in regulations how they're archived, so we need to do that. We're hoping that will become canon law enacted from January 2020, but that's quite a fun one. We have also a load of technology projects going on where we collect things once. I'm thinking about you and people like you. We collect things once, and we have therefore we use it wherever we can, and we're trying to join up everything. I'm like the sort of